My mission is simple, to make you money. I'm here to level the playing field for all investors. There's always a bull market somewhere, and I promise to help you find it. Mad Money starts now.
Hey, I'm Kramer. Welcome to Mad Money. Welcome to Kramerica. Do you want to make friends? I'm just trying to help you make some money. My job is not just to entertain, but to educate and put in context. So call me at 1-800-743-CNBC or tweet me at Jim Cramer. Will our botched vaccine rollout end up shutting down the economy? Will the crazy action in short squeezes like GameStop cause the stock market to collapse under its own weight? Does it even make sense to fret about this stuff with a slew of major earnings reports on the way starting tomorrow? After a day where the market was torn in two different directions, Dow declining 37 points, S&P advancing 0.36%, and the Nasdaq gaining 0.69%, we need to talk about what I think of as the vaccination GameStop dichotomy. This weekend, we were treated to story after story about how President Biden's pledge to jab 100 million people in 100 days could be impossible to carry out. Even if we work out the logistics problems, there may not be enough vaccines to go around. Meanwhile, we keep hearing about these new COVID strains that could potentially beat the vaccine, making the whole exercise pointless. We already know the economy is weakening. While new infections have begun to pull back from their highs, although we're still seeing many days with well over 200,000 cases, the psychological impact is causing people to stay home, resulting in kind of a voluntary shutdown. But it's not like the economy's in ruins. For the 93% of the workforce that's still gainfully employed, they've got nothing to spend their paychecks on, so they either invest or pay down debt. The service economy may be in horrible shape, but unless you work in travel, leisure, dining, or sports, especially if your company is private and small, you may be doing just fine. Meanwhile, ultra-low interest rates make it easy to buy a new house or a car, something Americans are doing in droves as they leave the cities for the suburbs or even the country. I talked to the home builders, and they say this may be the best housing market they've ever seen because people are desperate for homes with workspace and school space where they can be safe from COVID. You can't put a price on safety, people. And that's why home builders are selling lots so quickly. That's why they keep blowing numbers away. The wholesale exodus from cities has fueled a gigantic number of upside surprises. The new hybrid remote work style has been an enormous boon to the service industry and to retail. Oh, and if you're worried about going out, there's always the stay-at-home enablers. Here's some logical ones: Amazon, Netflix, Take-Two, Domino's. There's other ones just like it. Sure, you have to be worried about the slowness of the vaccine rollout and the undisciplined way people wear masks, the lack of testing infrastructure, but I don't think we're headed for another lockdown. Frankly, the states simply can't afford it. And that's why the governor of California just lifted a stay-at-home order, even though the outbreak's still pretty bad out there. We know how to do this, though. You can leave most of the economy open as long as you keep the elderly and the at-risk at home. So if you're selling stock here because you believe the economy's cracking, I think you're making a mistake. The Federal Reserve is keeping interest rates low. We hear from Chairman Powell on Wednesday, and I have no doubt he'll stick to his guns when it comes to easy money. Meanwhile, most consumers have lots of spending money that they'll be able and eager to use once we're vaccinated and the world goes back to normal, please. But how about the second worry? That the stock market will be brought down by the wild actions in stocks like GameStop. That's that retailer place game. You go in and you buy video games, and you buy the hardware. This GameStop is really something we must talk about because it's been bid up higher and higher by enthusiastic traders. Now, there's a forum I've mentioned before, Wall Street Bets. It's on Reddit. Now, a lot of younger people read Reddit. I read Reddit because younger people read it. That's why. Now, they've got a community of very rabid investors who will choose individual stocks and then run them up as a group with commentary about how much they love them. Now, they don't target just any stocks. They go after the ones that are heavily shorted in order to come up with a short squeeze. They'll come up with a thesis all on display and then run them until the shorts have to cover their positions, spurring still one more leg higher. Now, I know what it's like to get caught on the wrong side of a short squeeze. The only thing a short seller can really do when targeted is to throw in the towel. No point in trying to fight it. You just have to cover your short, meaning buy back the stock to close out your position before you run out of money. You can see this battle, how it played out in GameStop today. Look at this, okay? And that was just today. See that spike? Yes, the shorts believe the company's worthless, but the longs think it's going to the moon. Long term, I think the bear case is right. GameStop is a brick-and-mortar video game retailer at a time when people increasingly download their games off the internet. But I don't believe that short term. Short term, they have the new Xbox, they have new PlayStation, they just came out with those things, they're flying off the shelves, they've got a new big investor who's very smart. It's easy for the longs to come in and gun GameStop higher and make good money. If it hasn't been made already, though, when the stock spiked to 159 today before closing at 76. The Wall Street bets crowd can easily find stocks with big short positions. You can look them up. It's not a problem. GameStop was ludicrously shorted. More than 148% of the stock had been sold short, which is nuts. For years, betting against this thing has been like shooting fish in a barrel. But they forgot what can happen when the longs gang up on you. And gang up is a technical term. I'm not saying they're working in concert. I'm not saying they're doing anything illegal. I am saying that they are in force. We saw the same thing today in B&G Foods. You know, we've had them on. Bed Bath, we've had them on, too. They've got short positions of 36% and 63%, respectively. They're going after Rocket Mortgage with a 31% short. It's crazy out there. Bed Bath Beyond stock, which opened up 34, then leaped to 47, squeezed up by the cheerleading smaller investors. And then it plummeted to $30.68 to finish up just 47 cents. The squeeze didn't stick. My advice to the shorts, I'm not going to give any advice to the Wall Street Reddit crowd. They're making a lot of money. But my advice to the shorts, stop crowding to the same trades, leaving yourself open to this kind of action. You'll never know who Wall Street bets will target next. Now, not all of these targeted buying campaigns are about busting the shorts. Some of the stocks they aim for are genuinely loved and they think are very undervalued. Here I'm thinking BlackBerry. It's got a good software business. Palantir, both of which had gargantuan runs today. They are so loved, and the Wall Street bets crowd doesn't seem to want to stop buying at these levels. They always use these targets like the analysts who are too enthusiastic. But as entertaining as these moves are, this stuff is ultimately a sideshow. At the end of the day, I don't think a Reddit forum can bring the house down. They're picking undervalued stocks, bet a big short position, and running with them. That can cause crazy moves in a handful of stocks, but it's not big enough to move the entire market. Come on. What really matters now is that we have a stock pickers market for the first time in 20-odd years. This is a market that rewards individual companies for being well run. And that means stocks are less sensitive to the broader economy than they used to be. Now, we know many of the biggest winners thrive in a shutdown because they enable the stay-at-home economy. Remember that? Stay-at-home economy, we've got just indices galore to show this stuff. I think most of tech has gotten overheated at these levels. The endless price target boost for the semiconductors and Apple are very unnerving to me. They set a high bar. That can hurt the market. There's a whole gauntlet of stocks that are roared from Microsoft to Tesla to Boeing to AMD, and they could really hurt us if they get hit with a big bout of profit-taking all at once. But of these, only Apple's at its highs right now. Meanwhile, when a company reports a decent quarter, as Kimberly-Clark did today, the stock soars. Hey, do you know that Clorox followed up in sympathy? At one point, it's up 22 points. Of course, stocks go down just as much when they disappoint, and that's what happened to IBM last week. It's a market of stocks, people. So the bottom line, with the exception of a handful of gigantic tech plays, there isn't a stock out there that's big enough to bring down this market. If anything, the gauntlet of earnings this week, starting with J&J tomorrow, which is not at all sensitive to the economy, could be a terrific sign that many big-cap stocks are immune to a slowdown and unperturbed by the crazy action in marginal names like a GameStop or B&G Foods or even a Rocket Mortgage and Bed Bath & Beyond. It's a market of stocks, people, not a stock market anymore.
Don't miss a second of Mad Money. Follow @JimCramer on Twitter. Have a question? Tweet Kramer. #MadTweets. Send Jim an email to madmoney@cnbc.com or give us a call at 1-800-743-CNBC. Miss something? Head to madmoney.cnbc.com.
Shepard Smith here. Thanks for watching CNBC on YouTube.
In the meantime, video game retailer Gamestop is set to continue their head-spinning ascent today. Shares are now up more than 60% pre-market amid an ongoing battle between bullish day traders and hedge fund short sellers that have bet against the stock. GameStop shares have now risen some 700% year-to-date. Christine Romans is here with us on this story. Christina, look at this price action. It's absolutely eye-watering. The market analyst in me is cringing at the frothiness and all the analogies that we can make here. But there is a story here beneath the surface of hedge fund, the big guys shorting this, and smaller players, retail investors buying it and making windfall profits, at least on paper.
at the expense of those short sellers. I mean,
right.
It's like a David versus Goliath story, or it's a storyline in the TV show Billions, or it's a Michael Lewis story novel. You know, it's all of those things wrapped in one. It's so interesting, and people keep talking about it and talking about GameStop. Look, the fundamentals of the company have been rough here. You know, they're not making any money. They've been closing stores. You see these big short positions in the stock, and then this Reddit board, this Wall Street Bets Reddit message board. It's almost like a populist trader uprising to support the stock with these buying of the out-of-the-money options and really hurting the big guys. So it's just been this interesting revolt that somebody's making a lot of money on, someone is not, and certainly is far out of line with the fundamentals of this company. You know, it's funny, in some cases people think it's sort of funny how regular day traders could distort a stock price so much, but one wonders what they think about this at the Securities and Exchange Commission. You know, is it manipulation or is it just fair and square talking up a stock? It's fascinating.
I know. There's a lot of mom and pop investors here that could be cheering at this moment and could end up in tears. And your point about the regulators here is absolutely pivotal for me. I mean, step forward Gary Gensler, the former Wall Street guy that's now going to head up the SEC. This is fresh meat, I think, for the regulators of those voices, particularly in the Democratic Party, that will be like, we need to regulate hedge funds. Enough of what we've seen. Go on, go for it.
No, it's so interesting because some of the chatter on these message boards is about how this is just desserts for the the bloodthirsty short sellers, who are constantly out there making money on weakness in companies, or sometimes not even weakness in companies. So there's a sort of a feeling of righteousness among some of the people who are playing this game. But I mean, they're going after other names this morning too. So I think this is also kind of a story of the frothiness of the market overall, where you've got story stocks that are getting so much attention and so much hype here. There's just a lot of money at work in the market. There's a lot of interest from retail investors in the market. And now these story stocks, I think, have really gained a lot of attention here. Maybe not warranted, but gained a lot of attention. Someone's going to be hurting when this thing turns. But for now, it's not turning.
Yeah. Froth, not fundamentals. We are two people and one mind. I flatter myself. Christine Romans, thank you as always.
I want you to address the obvious. This looks like a move by an outfit called Robinhood, which is supposed to be taken from the rich and given to the poor, and doing exactly the opposite. That when the big guys, including one of your main investors in your company, started to lose, you shut down the game to starve the little guy. Fair criticism.
That's not what it is at all. And I know you started this segment. It really resonated with me because you described the story of Robinhood. Robinhood started 5 years ago by pioneering commission-free, no-account minimum mobile investing. And we've been the spokesperson of the individual investor. And our whole goal as an institution is to enable those customers, empower them, and give them access to the markets, because for the longest time, markets have been only accessible to the wealthy. And so the entire industry adopted our business model in 2019. And in 2020, we added millions of new customers. The entire industry added millions of new customers who took advantage of the market rally and became investors for the very first time. So, we had to make a very difficult decision to protect our customers and our firm.
Why?
But we in no way
why? Explain why you had to do it if it wasn't to protect the guys who had shorted the stocks, which are the big hedge funds. How are you helping the little guy investors?
Well, I know that there's rumors around that, we were directed by market makers or other market participants to do this. And I want to be 100% clear. This decision was not made on the direction of any market maker or other market participants. So
why'd you do it?
Decision. Robinhood, as a brokerage, has lots of financial requirements, SEC requirements. We have to put up money at clearinghouses. The amount of money that we have to put up depends on market volatility, and we're in a historic situation where there's a lot of activity and a lot of buying concentrated in a relatively small number of symbols that are going viral on social media. So we haven't really seen anything like this before. And to prudently manage the risk and the deposit requirements, we had to restrict buying in these 13 stocks. But customers that held them could sell throughout. Thousands of other securities and stocks on our platform were available to freely trade. And our number one priority, as you mentioned, is to make sure our platform is reliable, stable for our customers. We're serving our customers and giving them the tools.
But that's exactly what's in question now.
We're doing everything in our power to turn it back on as soon as prudent.
But that's the thing, is that the trust is in question, because it seems like the only people who are getting hurt were the big shots. And that if they were benefiting from this, your small investors now believe that you wouldn't have shut down the game. And just one thing without getting in the weeds here. You don't control the listing venue for GameStop. Now, I used to work in finance, so I know this stuff, but the audience doesn't need to. The New York Stock Exchange does. So if anybody was going to control the listing and shut it down, it should have been them, but it wasn't. It was you. And the reason that they do it is very limited. They do it because they think there's evidence of fraud, or they think that there needs to be a material disclosure by the company that hasn't been made. And that's done to protect the investor. You check none of those boxes here because you don't control the venue. You didn't know about any information that GameStop or any of these other stocks needed to put out. You don't have any reason to believe there's fraud that you've articulated. And you're certainly not protecting these people who've been living the dream of making money, especially at the expense of the big guys. So why should people believe you did this for the right reasons?
Well, we have no choice. We have to comply with all financial requirements and
the SEC hasn't said you had to do this.
Well, lots of brokers have to comply with these financial requirements and have issued restrictions on some of these names. And this is an industry-wide thing. You yourself mentioned that other brokers this week have imposed restrictions. And not speaking for other firms, but for Robinhood in particular, this isn't because there's deals happening with market makers we route to or market participants.
But then why did you allow people to keep selling but not buying? The reason that is so troubling to people is that they were making money buying the stock because they were against the short side. And so by enabling them to sell but not buy, it sounds like you were allowing the hedge funds, and again, one of them owns a piece of you, and they had a big short position, and that looks like a stinky conflict that you didn't come out straight on from the start. Address that.
Well, none of that had anything to do with our decision to do this. Again, this was just looking at regulatory requirements, financial requirements, and we 100% will always protect our customers. The entire business is operating to empower individual investors and has been since its founding. And that's what Robinhood is committed to continue to do. So we don't want to restrict buying in these 13 stocks. We're doing the best we can to re-enable it as long as it's operationally and prudent from a deposit standpoint.
David, we do have now some statements from Robinhood and Interactive Brokers about restricting trading on some names. The statement out of Robinhood says, our mission at Robinhood is to democratize finance for all. We're proud to have created a platform that has helped everyday people from all backgrounds shape their financial futures and invest for the long term. We continuously monitor the markets and make changes where necessary. In light of recent volatility, we are restricting transactions for certain securities to position closing only. As for Interactive Brokers, they say we've put AMC, BB, Express, GME, and Costs option trading into liquidation only due to the extraordinary volatility in the markets. In addition, long stock positions will require 100% margin, and short requires 300% margin until further notice. David, that's likely to raise some hackles and some anger in certain sectors.
Yep, I've seen it on Twitter already, as you point out, Carl. People upset at the idea that they can no longer buy, and it will have an impact. It would be curious to see just how much, of course, but it will conceivably have an impact on shares of GameStop and many of the others, although, I mean, again, American Airlines this morning, that was unexpected. Better than expected numbers for a company that had been losing, what, $30 million a day. But you can see there, the stock had been up as much as 50%. It's come in. GameStop is coming in. AMC, we talked about the conversion there by Silver Lake of $600 million of convertible notes into stock, given the conversion price was, well, it was at least above, well below where the stock was, although no longer. But, Carl, this story is far from over. And, again, I would come back to the broader story, which is you've had an enormous reduction in risk by many on Wall Street who run hedge funds, who are now going to think very differently about how they go about shorting stocks.
Shepard Smith here. Thanks for watching CNBC on YouTube.
Lee, it's good to have you here. Thanks for being on.
Nice to be with you.
Let me just get your broad perspective first of what you make of the whole GameStop situation as you've been watching it unfold for these last couple of weeks.
Well, Rob referred to the casino environment, and I think he's on the right track. What's going on is no surprise. Prior to the virus hitting, the number of unemployed people in the country was, I think, 5.7 million. That ballooned to over 23 million, is now dropped to about 10.7 million. And it's very clear that the Fed and Congress is pulling at every stop to get employment back to where it was pre-virus. So they create an environment of free money. We have no commissions anymore because of Robinhood. We have an administration that is spending money like drunken sailors. I'm not being critical. The only person I'm really critical of, to be honest with you, is Powell, because when he says that the stock market is not expensive against interest rates, he's leaving out the second part where interest rates are ridiculously priced. You know, if interest rates belong at near zero, you're not supposed to make more than 2 or 3% in the stock market. So I think what's going on is a logical consequence of zero interest rates, zero commissions, and very stimulative fiscal policy.
So are you saying that so it's partly the Fed's fault for putting, you know, a lot of gasoline on the fire over the last many years, but also I sense you're suggesting, tell me if I'm wrong, that you think this is part of a broader populist movement, perhaps, created by the very environment that you just talked about the Fed instigating, if you will.
I'm not critical of what the Fed per se is doing. I'm critical of the dialogue. In other words, Greenspan was early, but he referred to irrational exuberance. The market is very, very pricey. We have been pulling forward demand. The outlook longer term is more questionable, and I don't think the Fed is giving any indication to the public that that's part of the picture. So I would say that I understand what's going on in the market. This is not going to end well when it ends, and the bigger question is, when does it end? I don't think it ends soon, but I think it will end, and it will end very badly for the public. You know, whenever you go into the S&P at current multiples, the 1-year, 3-year, 5-year returns have been very pedestrian. That's the environment we're heading for.
You've said in the past that, you know, where it was different instances, we weren't talking about the GameStop situation, that it was going to, quote unquote, end in tears. There are a lot of tears being felt throughout the business that you made your living in. And I'm curious to get your reaction to this notion of this uprising, a revolt, if you will, against the hedge fund community. The activity that took place in GameStop against some of the short funds, and just this general idea that we're sick and tired of watching hedge funds make all of this money. Hedge fund managers make all of this money. Whenever they don't get money, the government bails them out. They crashed the banks, big banks crashed the system in 2008 and got bailed out, and the quote-unquote little guy got left holding the bag. I mean, how do you react to that?
The big boy is holding the bag to a degree as well. Listen, in 2008, Bernanke figured out he had to rescue the economy, which was going down the toilet. And he figured out the best way to rescue the economy is to create wealth, because wealth leads to consumption. And the best way to create wealth is to get the stock market up. The trouble with that is 80% of the stock is owned by 20% of the people. Okay, and so what they did subsequently is they created a negative real return environment for savings, so you had no reward for being prudent and saving money. And that's what we're doing now. We have a new administration in place. I did vote for President Biden because I felt I voted my values, not my pocketbook. But if you listen to what President Biden has to say, Basically, they're going to raise taxes on the individuals. They're going to raise tax on corporations. They're going to raise the capital gains tax rate. It's not going to be user-friendly, you know. And but I don't know that they're going after hedge funds per se. But
well, there was definitely some of that, right? I mean, there was definitely some of that, and you could see it.
I've been doing this for 55 years. I can tell you the short sellers, generally speaking, are more knowledgeable than the long players because they understand if you're wrong on a long, as it goes down, it becomes less of a problem in your portfolio. If you're wrong on a short, it becomes a bigger problem in your portfolio. So they tend to be very careful. They're very smart. And if I had to guess, I've never met him in my life. I've never spoke to him. But Gabe Plotkin will have turned out to be right in his view of GameStop. And the only surprise to me, to be honest with you, in GameStop is why they have not used this ridiculous price to raise some cheap capital as Elon Musk did in Tesla or the guy that converted his AMC note.
So
you've probably heard a lot this week about GameStop shares going through the roof and people on Reddit earning a lot of money. Here's how that happened. On the stock market, you can buy shares in a company and the price can go up or down depending on how well a company is doing. Typically, you hope to buy shares when they're at a low price and then sell them when they're at a higher price so you make a profit. People on the Reddit message board Wall Street Bets saw an opportunity with GameStop. That's a high street video games retailer in the US that's been struggling, especially during the pandemic, so its share price was low. They knew that if enough people bought GameStop shares, they could cause the price to skyrocket. The power of working together.
I think us regular average, Janes and Joes are struggling in COVID-19. And I think this is a way to show that, look, we can't survive. So in response, we're going to figure out ways for us to actually make profits in 2019 like a lot of other industries are. And we're tired, and I think this shows that if we take control as a collective, as a group, we have full buying power, just like the big cats upstairs.
The plan worked, and GameStop's share price went through the roof, earning some Reddit users a lot of money. But that wasn't the only goal. For some, they saw it as an opportunity to get one over on big million-dollar investment companies known as hedge funds. Those can bet or hope that a company is going to perform worse so that they can earn a big profit. That's known as shorting stocks, and here's how it works. Say you own one share of an apple tree, one apple, and you let me borrow it. At the moment, the value of this apple on the open market is £10, but I think that's going to fall in the next few days. So I immediately sell the apple for £10 and I've made £10. Brilliant. But I do still owe you an apple. So in a few days, when the value of apples has fallen on the open market to £5, I buy one back. I return the apple to you and I've made £5 profit. Hedge funds do this at scale to make huge profits, but if the share price goes up, they can also make a huge loss because they still have to buy back the shares and return them at some point. And for some people on Reddit, the opportunity to hurt a big hedge fund was just too good to resist, and one hedge fund lost billions of dollars.
Obviously, we all know that these stocks aren't the best stocks, but the whole point of this isn't necessarily evaluating these stocks based on, its inherent value, but to drive the price up to send a message.
I don't care about the money at all. I could lose everything and I'd be so happy because I just love what's going on.
After seeing what happened with GameStop, some people have turned their attention to other companies that are struggling, like AMC Cinemas. But some of the platforms that let you buy and sell shares, like Robinhood in the US, have actually intervened and stopped people buying AMC and GameStop shares. And that's annoyed a lot of investors who say Robinhood is interfering in the market.
Now that we're capitalizing on it, it's crazy how the system is flawed and we are in the wrong. It makes no sense to me.
I think Robinhood stopping investors from buying the stock is the biggest example of market manipulation. And I think, go look at their app reviews. They're getting hounded right now.
If they think Wall Street Bets should be investigated by the SEC, Robinhood should just as equally be investigated. The fact that they can pigeonhole and select stocks that we're not allowed to trade openly in the free market made by the people with our money is horrid, and it makes no sense.
Robinhood does now allow some trading of these shares, and it says it made its decision to protect investors and the market. So what happens next? Well, GameStop as a company still faces a lot of challenges, and its share price has dipped already. It could continue to fall further, and people who bought shares at those really inflated prices could lose a lot of money. But for others, they say this marks a turning point for stocks and shares. It shows that the power of the collective on the internet can move markets, and it could happen again.
This could be a trend moving forward. I mean, we're playing within the rules. We're not sharing any insider information. It's just a collective group saying to buy specific stocks. I think right now, today on Thursday, we're seeing that you can't really control this. Once the internet takes hold of this, there's no stopping it.
We do. The market giveth and it can taketh right now. So all of these people who are holding on to multi-million-dollar fortunes in some cases, given the run-up in the stock, what happens if they want to get out? And what happens when they all want to get out at the same time? That could be problematic. I have the two Charleses with us right now, and I'm very happy to. Charles Payne, of course, Charlie Gasparino. Gentlemen, welcome. Charles Payne, to you, the fact that the government is sniffing around and something will raise with Senator Pat Toomey of Pennsylvania, what do you make of that they're beginning to say, wait a minute, we got to start really looking into all of this?
Well, that always raises a red flag, right? And of course, in this environment, people are wondering, what part of this saga are you going to be sniffing around? Will it be, the ability to short 140% of a company? Even these shorts, if you just look at the top 10 shortest stocks and Fizz and Tootsie Roll, those kind of names, to short 70, 60, 80% of a company, let alone 140%. I think a lot of people universally believe something is wrong there. I would start there if I was Congress. And then, listen, if Robinhood is having trouble, they're going to have to look back and understand how they seduced or wooed all of these customers and maybe figure that part out. So I'm worried about Congress, but I'm glad that the attention is reaching certain levels, that this has become a mainstream story, because the underpinnings of this are mainstream in a sense that those who have not had a chance to participate, those who don't think they have a lot of money, those who have felt that their forays into the market in the past have been crushed. Either they were in a stock that was shorted or something just didn't work out for them. They feel like maybe collectively they now have a voice and they're being taken seriously.
Charlie Gasparino, you're saying that maybe the best protection of all is recognizing, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is, or if you're getting a little too selfish, that's on you. I'm just sort of getting a general sense of where you are on this, but not necessarily for Washington intervening, that it can cause more harm. Could you explain?
Yeah, I mean, I worry about it. Listen, here's the bottom line with short selling, and here's why I'm worried about them cracking down on short selling. Short selling actually exposes so many frauds, because stock markets are much more filled with touters and people who pump up these stocks like GameStop, by the way. I mean, when was the last time you were in a mall, or BlackBerry? I mean, those stocks are being touted. And investors are getting in those stocks thinking that they are great based on flimsy research. And guess what? The short sellers come in and give you another side of the story. So if you think getting rid of short selling is a good thing, think again, because it's going to lead to many more ripoffs. The problem with Washington, I think, on this story is this, Neil, I don't think there's much they can do. You can investigate the market manipulation. Guess what? They're going to find out it's almost impossible to peel back, because a lot of this message board stuff is all anonymous. What's the difference between a tout and a real belief in something? You have to delineate that. The real thing came down, I think, is what's going on here is that when you have the Federal Reserve just having 0% interest rates forever, you're going to get GameStop, that's at $3 a share, shoot up to $40 a share, which is when the shorts came in and said this thing ain't worth it. It's full of irrational exuberance, and that's happening with a lot of stocks. So I think the big thing is you want to add some reality to the markets. Add some interest rates and make sure you have to pay for money here.
All right, well, that could be a whole other phenomenon here. There's plenty of justification to keep rates where they are. But having said that, Charles Payne, I know you've been saying, we don't, waste a nanosecond looking the other way when big shorts and some of these big hedge funds, you know, are losing a lot of money here, and we don't hold them accountable. But God forbid the little guy makes a lot of money, then we're zeroing in on him. Is it really that way, though, or is there just a sense right now that this is like a market toppy event, that we're assigning values to companies that are way beyond the norm? I mean, it's Tesla's one thing, but something that we see happening to these small guys who've been targeted, I guess, because they're small, because they're the focus of shorts, they get a disproportionate amount of attention. What do you think?
Well, you know, it's easy now to say, oh, well, Tesla is not the same. For the last 5, 6, 7 years, people were saying the same exact argument. I'm not here to argue value. You know, listen, I'm in the market to make money. 2 weeks ago, I put out a list of shorts that people should buy, and we took profits on them. Actually, most of them last week. The only one I took profits on this week, I think, was Space. And they were all grand slams. So you got to know your own greed level. Also, the assumption that everyone who bought these at $50 is going to hold it till it goes all the way back down to 1 is a farce. I mean, these are not dumb people. Some of them, listen, human nature, some people are going to get greedy, but a lot of people have already made a lot of money. I think the main story here, though, is that Wall Street, hedge funds, it's good. You think a stock is $100 and it should be $80? Go short. But they don't just go short. You know, they put together 50-page reports. They get to go on TV. They have their own networks, their own very powerful networks. They don't need to go in a chat room and gather 1 million people with $400. Yeah, they can make 2 or 3 phone calls. So the idea that the hedge funds are being dissed or somehow disadvantaged there is a farce.
Look at the short thesis on BlackBerry, okay, the analysis on BlackBerry, and the long thesis on BlackBerry.
Right.
And then
let me tell you one thing, Charlie. Let me tell you one thing. Let me tell you one thing.
I get trading out of it. Look at the short thesis on GameStop.
Charlie. Let me just tell you one thing, though. Let me just tell you one thing. I bought BlackBerry in my own account. A year, almost a year ago.
Makes no sense. This market is.
Let Charles Payne answer. Let Charles Payne answer. Go ahead, sir.
Stocks up.
Who cares about your thesis? Who cares about your thesis? Who are you? Who are you? Who cares about your thesis?
Guess what? Not all the money in there are smart people. There are people being led astray. It happens every few years, and it's happening now.
People were led astray when they bought General Electric at 54.
Bubble, Charles. But a lot of small investors believe Pets.com was going to be the next Amazon.com.
Yeah, and guess what?
But remember, there were a lot of people who were shorting Tesla, right?
Hold on 1 second.
They looked wise. The crowd that shorted Tesla looked very, very wise, right? In retrospect, maybe not so much, right?
Listen, we saw this with Tesla, Netflix, Amazon for years was a stock that the experts said don't buy because there was no E in the PE. Here's the thing. I bought BlackBerry almost a year ago on my own account because of the 5G technology. I just happened to see the short squeeze and take it. My broker sent me an email, said, yo, you remember this? I said, oh, golly. So there was a thesis for me to own it.
Excuse me, Charles.
I told you a year ago. What does a year ago mean to you? I said I bought it a year ago.
This stuff. And there are people that are buying.
Listen, Neil, I didn't want to do this with anybody else that would not let me speak. Okay?
All right. Well, guys, one at a time. So, Charles, you're saying, you know, you have confidence in that people are grown-ups. They can invest in something, and it doesn't work out. It doesn't work out. But they're certainly as qualified as the hedge funds who have second-guessed.
I'm not saying anybody who. I'm not judging qualifications. I'm judging opportunity. I'm saying who the hell is anybody out there to say, oh, you should stop being able to own GameStop at a certain level.
Nobody's saying that.
I would love to be able to speak more than three seconds.
That, Charles.
All right. Well, here's the bottom line. Here's the bottom line. Everyone has theses, right?
Raising the issue.
All right. Here's the thing. You're calling people stupid,
Charles. Is that you're calling people stupid? The volume from a settlement standpoint, and Rush Limbaugh and all these lunatics are running around saying it's a class warfare thing. It's absurd.
I tend to agree with Rush on this because you know what? Robinhood could have raised. Excuse me. I would like to talk. I would like to talk for more than 1 second, my man. Please give me a chance. I'm asking you to let me talk for a minute. Now, Robinhood raised $1 billion this morning. They could have raised that yesterday. They could have raised $10 billion. They want to go public. The insiders don't want to give up any more equity.
Because they don't have enough money for this settlement.
I'm out. Please cut me off. I don't want to finish this. This guy keeps interrupting. What kind of nonsense is this?
All right. I just want to understand, guys, are you, real quickly, guys, are you for the government looking into this?
No.
Charlie Gasparino, yes or no? All right, Charles Payne, you're not.
Look into it. I'm not for more regulation.
You agree?
I want them to make
closer
sure,
and
though,
more
that
and
you
more
can
in
never
sync.
stop. You can never short 140% of a company. I want to make sure that hedge funds can never keep shorting unlimited amounts of stock, because every short is a deliberate sell, a deliberate attempt to knock the stock down, and that is not a free market.
I want to make
All right,
sure
and that
people
was the
stop
case with
touting
GameStop.
stocks
It did
and
have
getting people to lose
140% short
like
position. All right. Okay. Guys, great having you on. We saved a hell of a lot of time by talking over one another, so touche.
That never gets old.
These are, no, it never does get old. Thank you, my friend.
It's like Caputo on Saturday, the old show.
That's fine. That's fine. All right, guys, I want to thank you.
Short interest in GameStop.
This GameStop situation is the craziest I think I've ever seen.
We have some breaking news right now on what has turned into the soap opera and saga of the markets right now, and that is the story of GameStop.
GameStop has captivated Wall Street's attention. The stock's rise has been otherworldly, but the obsession isn't just with the rally, it's with who's making money off of it. Legions of individual investors on social platforms like Reddit are going up against fancy, well-funded professional Wall Street traders, and the little guy is winning. For now. GameStop shares have soared over 1,600% so far this year. Just in the past week, the stock jumped 400%. But experts can't find a fundamental reason for the stock's success, meaning there's nothing about GameStop's business model that's driving the rally. GameStop lost $795 million in 2019, and analysts estimate that the company lost hundreds of millions of dollars again in 2020.
This stock has completely disconnected from the fundamentals. The company's fundamentals are heading in the opposite direction of the stock price.
Instead, the mob of traders on Reddit is now focused on going after one of the most elite insidery clubs of all time, Wall Street hedge funds, and they want to cause as much financial pain as possible.
Melvin Capital is now out of the stock. They've taken a rather huge loss.
GameStop first went public in 2002. It was once a brick-and-mortar mainstay of shopping malls. You could buy the latest PlayStation or Xbox games there and then trade them in for cash when you beat them. But in recent years, most gamers now get their titles via digital downloads, not physical CDs.
There's been basically a 15-year trend away from packaged video game distribution to digital game distribution.
Fast forward to August of 2020. That's when Ryan Cohen, an activist investor and entrepreneur who co-founded online pet store Chewy, spent $76 million to buy 9 million shares of GameStop, according to SEC filings. In November 2020, he wrote a letter to the board urging them to shift their focus away from brick-and-mortar retail and toward building a robust e-commerce platform. About 2 months later, GameStop added Cohen, along with 2 of his former Chewy colleagues, to its board. The stock popped about 13% the day the announcement was made, but at that point, GameStop's trading frenzy had little to do with Ryan Cohen. However, the company's rise can be attributed to something else: short selling.
Short sellers come in and they borrow the stock, say 100 shares of GameStop, and then they sell it into the market, hoping that it's going to drop. Because then, if it drops, they can buy it back lower priced and pocket the difference between what they've borrowed it for and what they sold it for.
And what's the single most shorted stock on Wall Street? GameStop.
Over 130% of its available shares have been borrowed and sold short.
Enter the David of the David versus Goliath story. Individual investors. Wall Street calls them retail traders, and their ranks have grown significantly. An estimated 10 million new brokerage accounts have been opened in the past year alone.
And it's become a lot easier to gamble on the stock market because you have a phone and you have apps on the phone that enable you to trade stocks almost instantaneously.
And day trading, the practice of buying and selling stocks every day to profit off the daily market moves, has shot through the roof with commission-free apps like Robinhood, especially with so many people stuck at home while social distancing during the coronavirus pandemic. And because it's 2021, these 10 million newly minted amateur stock traders can all talk to each other on social media, like Reddit. And one subreddit in particular, Wall Street Bets. The subreddit Wall Street Bets has a colorful, not safe for work reputation, one it seems to revel in. The forum proudly bills itself as, quote, like 4chan found a Bloomberg terminal, and has a history rife with harassment and obscenities.
Wall Street Bets is one forum that has become pretty popular with day traders. They pick a stock, they run with it, they tell each other hold, don't buy, when to buy, And we've seen this phenomenon happen in the past year. GameStop is just the latest example.
So to recap, GameStop is the most shorted stock in the market. Certain hedge funds and professional traders have done their due diligence and believe the company's business is suffering, and therefore have placed sizable bets that the shares will fall. And now, a ragtag team of average Joe traders has decided on a subreddit to buy the stock and send the price higher. They've even gotten high-profile billionaires cheering them on. So now we've got what the pros call a short squeeze.
A short squeeze is when the opposite happens. Essentially, it goes against you. So you borrow that stock at 30, you sell it into the market, and you hope it goes to 25. Wait a minute, it doesn't. It goes to 35. Now you're sitting there trying to decide, oh my God, what am I going to do? Well, maybe it'll go back down to 25 and I'll make money. Maybe it won't. Maybe it'll go to 40 and I'll get really killed. It's called buying it back. Now you've out of a loss. Instead of having that stock where you borrowed it and you sold it at 30 and you want to buy it back at 25, well, now you're buying it back at 35. So what are you doing? You're losing money.
So the retail folks are buying GameStop stock, which sends the price higher.
There are enough buyers to, at least in this case, squeeze some of the short sellers. So they are having this outsized impact on specific stocks.
And now the shorts have to buy in order to cover their losses, and that buying drives the price up even more. And while, yes, the Reddit retail traders do want to make money off the speculative bets, this army of normals, if you will, has a larger purpose. Target the hedge funds, punish the pros who made billions of dollars profiting off a financial system so complex that a regular person can't compete. In short, take down the man.
You see it with sort of villainizing these short sellers where they kind of go after them.
The effort has been somewhat successful. Hedge fund Melvin Capital closed its short position at a loss, according to reporting from CNBC's Andrew Ross Sorkin. And short seller Andrew Leff from Citron Research said his firm had to bail on its short position at a 100% loss. The phenomenon seems to extend beyond just GameStop. Other stocks appear to be targeted by the Reddit crowd as well.
What's going on is that the Wall Street bet people are looking at what the high short interest is, whether it be the short interest in GameStop, whether it be the short interest in Bed Bath & Beyond, the short interest in AMC.
Both of these stocks are up triple digits this month as well. So the little guy is winning, for now at least.
So there's an old saying on Wall Street, don't mistake the market going up for you being a genius.
GameStop is arguably a relic of a bygone era of shopping malls. There are serious concerns about the sustainability of its business model, but the stock is at an all-time high.
It's very dangerous. People are using the word bubble especially because the stock market is already at record high. A lot of strategists are saying where GameStop is trading is not matching its fundamentals. It will eventually come back to earth.
In the interim, there are serious questions about the legality of the behavior on Reddit, and if the collective targeting of hedge funds could add up to something like collusion or market manipulation.
Analysts and finance professors that I've talked to say that whatever grabs the headline is likely what the SEC is looking into.
Observers are also questioning if this is just the work of retail traders anymore, or if the professionals are now playing both sides of the trade.
You talk about 70, 80 million shares traded yesterday alone. They're not out there able to trade that much stock in one day. That's institutional money.
Who do you think is manipulating this stock?
Well, that's the problem. How do you know who's manipulating the stock at this point? I mean, people are liking to tell a David versus Goliath story, but are you entirely sure that's right? Are you entirely sure that there aren't wealthy people on both sides? That hedge funds haven't moved in on the side of the people who've bid up the price of GameStop? And that's what happens when you don't have an honest market.
The retail brokerages, for their part, started responding to the frenzy on Wednesday, when TD Ameritrade and Charles Schwab imposed trading restrictions on GameStop, movie theater chain AMC, as well as other names. Free trading pioneer Robinhood followed suit on Thursday, only allowing customers to sell these specific stocks, but prohibiting them from buying.
It pains us to have had to impose these restrictions, and we're going to do what we can to enable trading in these stocks as soon as we can.
The unprecedented trading activity and volume that started the whole phenomenon, along with the moves from Robinhood, have all caught the attention of Washington regulators. The Biden administration says the SEC is monitoring the current activity.
We, of course, respect the role of regulatory agencies. They are closely monitoring the situation.
And now, congressional lawmakers have called for hearings.
Incoming chairman of the Senate Banking Committee, Sherrod Brown, now says that he wants to hold a hearing on the current state of the stock market.
We reached out to GameStop for comment, but the company didn't respond in time for publication. No one knows for sure how or when this will end. Wall Street veterans are certain it won't be pretty for the retail crowd.
I'm not damning them. I'm just saying, from my experience, this will end in tears.
This little guy just made a killing in the GameStop stock market frenzy. He's just 10 years old, a fifth grader, which begs the question, are you smarter than a fifth grader? The big Wall Street wizards certainly aren't, not this week.
My phone is going off like crazy, and I'm just like, go get the kid.
Jaden Carr's mom, Nina, bought him 10 shares of GameStop as a holiday gift for $60. As the stock rocketed up this week, they sold it for $3,200, a 5,000% gain. What are your plans for the money, Jaden? What are you going to do next?
I am going to save $2,200 of it, and the rest, $1,000, I am going to invest in more companies.
The Wall Street roller coaster is being fueled by a band of renegade stock pickers on the Reddit forum Wall Street Bets. The so-called Redditors are urging each other on. Don't sell. Hold no matter what. Hold to the moon.
It's been a wild ride for us.
One of the guys leading the charge calls himself Roaring Kitty. His real name, Keith Gill, a father of two from Boston. He's made a whopping $47 million on GameStop alone. The Redditors' mission is to stick it to the Wall Street firms who are betting against struggling companies like GameStop, AMC, and Bed Bath & Beyond. The big firms are banking on the stock price going down, a trade known as short selling. But instead, the stock has gone up, way up. And now those big firms have lost an estimated $70 billion.
Everybody's talking about it.
The late-night comics have little sympathy for the big guys losing a fortune.
Those poor hedge fund managers. Now might be a good time to invest in whoever manufactures the world's tiniest violins.
They're like, we can't have a bunch of randos from Reddit manipulating the market. That's what we do.
The chaos is throwing the stock market into turmoil with wild swings up and down. So what does this mean for your 401k account or your kid's college fund? I asked CNBC's Leslie Picker.
Nobody's really seen anything like this before. The most prudent approach would be to just keep monitoring the news, monitoring the headlines, making sure that you are appropriately diversified, and not to take too much risk right now because there is a lot of uncertainty going on.
And joining me live from Beverly Hills is the real Wolf of Wall Street, the author and former stockbroker Jordan Belfort, and of course inspired the Hollywood movie Wolf of Wall Street. Very warm welcome to you and to the program. What do you make of all of this?
It's amazing that the average person can now actually get a fair shake since against the hedge funds, because the hedge funds have been beating up the little investor since the beginning of time, pretty much. And while this will be short-lived, and everyone's got to be really, really careful, because it's going to be like catching a falling knife when it unravels. It's shocking and really amazing and gratifying to see a little bit of the pain going on the side of the hedge fund. So that's my overall, personal opinion. As far as, what's causing it and how it started, well, that's a much more complex issue, and I can answer that if you'd like as well.
Well, let's just start with your point about it being quite gratifying. It's interesting you say that. Was there a part of you, given your own background and your own success, that kind of admires this?
Well, and believe it or not, my firm was actually like Reddit. It's just that it's very similar. What happened here is you have lots of people gathering up and buying one stock where there's a very heavy, what's called a short interest, meaning that there was these big hedge funds betting that the stock was going to go down and hopefully even go bankrupt. Now, shorting is a normal, healthy part of the stock market, and it's important. But there are certain types of short sellers that go over the line, and they overshort. They massively short. They will start trying to create investigations for companies, create bad press, hoping to drive down the price of the stock. That is what happened here. So these shorts ganged up on this company, and then the little guy, I can't believe that it actually worked. They were able to muster enough collective buying power to create what's called a short squeeze. Because remember, when you sell something without owning it, which is what shorting is, you got to buy it back. So if you can get enough people to get the stock going up, they have no choice but to buy it back because they start to lose so much money, and then it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy because when they start to buy it back, it goes even higher and higher. That's what you're seeing happening right now.
And so I detect from that then you do admire it, just, you know, the intelligence behind it. And I just wonder whether you think this phenomenon is something that we can expect to persist, that it might continue. I mean, we're seeing, haven't we, as a result of lockdown, this increase in people kind of getting involved in day trading, perhaps with no experience or background or really even the funds to risk things. But it's certainly on the increase, isn't it?
I wish I would have thought of it myself. I can't take credit.
Knew it.
No, it's really, no, it's an amazing thing that, you know, anyone on Wall Street that really knows Wall Street is like, I can't believe this was possible. It would seem to defy logic at every level, but it was really incredible. It shows the power of social media. It's a testament to also the convergence of technology, allowing even the smallest investor to get real-time access to information and the stock market, and it's leveled the field. Now, the danger is that Wall Street and hedge funds especially are experts at identifying what we call basically inefficiencies in the market. This is an inefficiency in the market right now, and they will look to close that inefficiency very quickly, long before the SEC or any other regulatory body is able to pass laws to try to stop some of this stuff. That Wall Street will close the inefficiencies, and you'll notice that these opportunities become much rarer indeed. But again, I'm on the side of the little guy here because it's just awesome to see. And I really hope, I would just say, please, you know, if you made money in this, just take enough chips off the table so when it goes bad, at least you didn't lose everything, because it's going to go bad at some point. And I hate to be the ones who are holding the bag.
It's good advice, it has to be said. But I mean, it's interesting you say that. You think that, you know, you're amazed that this was even possible, and you think that the loophole will be tightened up, but too slowly for it to affect the guys here. But essentially, do you think that, you know, in terms of the authorities, the, you know, the financial market authorities, this is a loose crime that we're talking about?
Okay, so I hate to say it, but you're right. It's illegal what they're doing. Theoretically, you can't collude together to buy stock. Right. So that's really, and that's, by the way, when I said it was like a bit like Stratton, my firm, that's what I was alluding to, that it's so much like what we were doing, except instead of having one firm doing it, it's all these individuals almost acting like a firm together. So I really strongly doubt that any of them will get in trouble. Well, they would get in trouble if one person was driving it on, got long the stock early, was buying lots of stock and then trying to create this frenzy. That would be something that the government would certainly go after. But on the other side, there's also some really questionable behavior on the part of these trading platforms that are shutting down trading in this. Now, I understand that they have massive risk as well. So there is that side where Robinhood, you know, stands to lose a fortune if the stock collapses and there are losses in their clients' accounts. But the way they did it, to shut trading down like that at a moment's notice, they could have just as easily done what's called raising the margin requirement, meaning they make it very expensive to buy stock, and that could have accomplished pretty much the same thing. So why did they suspend trading like that? And I wonder, there are these relationships between Robinhood and the hedge funds who are losing money, so that needs to be investigated as well. And all I can tell you is this: I'd hate to be the owner of Robinhood because I can't see how they survive this, because everybody and their grandma is going to sue Robinhood and another platform saying, you shut down trading, you artificially caused me to lose money. Whether they made money or lost money, Robinhood will be in so many lawsuits, class action suits, that I really does not bode well for their future.
I mean, it's just impossible to overstate the significance of this, just based on what you're telling me here. And I just wonder, you know, whether, you know, on a broader scale, if we're actually looking at, you know, almost on the edge of a sort of stock market bubble here, that we could be in a sort of difficult position in the months to come.
You're hitting all the right points here, that's for sure. So, yes, I mean, this is 1999 all over again. And that's why I said I'm begging everybody to please be careful here. I had someone fixing a TV in my house yesterday, and the guy says, "Oh, my mother called me. She's 82, and she was asking me about GameStop." I'm like, "There you go." And that's how it really gets bad, because when that last group of people start getting in, typically they call it the odd lot theory, that when the average person gets in, that's the time it's going to actually crash. But again, you never know when that moment's going to come. It's going to come, of course, because things will eventually seek their fundamental value. But I would urge, again, I just keep saying it because, it's a wonderful opportunity for people to make money. Everyone's bored and locked up. But just be careful and make sure that whatever you invest in these type of hot stocks, make sure you invest only what you can afford to lose. And if you happen to make money, pull the original investment out and play with the house's money. That's my advice to everybody.
And just lastly, I'm assuming you didn't get involved in this yourself, that you aren't kicking yourself, that you had a bit of cash.
I did. I'm kicking myself, but I didn't, because it was pretty obvious. And when I saw it, you really hit an important point. Like, is there a crime going on? Theoretically, you're not allowed to do this. I figure if I did it, I'd be the one they go after. So I said, maybe I should just stay. I'm better off staying. Like, everyone else will do it and not get in trouble. I'll get in trouble. So I figured it's probably best for me to avoid these type of situations. But I would love, I think it's really important that the people who are doing this at least learn about the actual stock market, because it's really great that you should be financially literate. The info's out there. Be careful and make money. That's my advice.
And whilst you're being so honest and urging us all to make money, just finally, because I can't let you go, you're being such an interesting guest, any tips on how we can do that as someone who is actually financially illiterate?
Yes. So number one, there are a few things I could tell you without giving you any particular stock. Number one, at this point, I would say GameStop is over. In other words, the ride is gone. So you're at that point now. Remember, ultimately what's going to happen is that all of these stocks that are involved in short squeezes, they'll eventually trade as a basket. They'll go up and down together at any one time, because there's only so much hot money that can flow into these stocks. So they go up, they go down almost in tandem after a while. The key is, number one, is if you really want to do this and you want to, stay on these message boards, you could try to really find out what the next one that they're talking about is and get in right early towards the beginning. So there's an old saying on Wall Street: bulls make money, bears make money, pigs get slaughtered. You don't want to catch the bottom, and you don't want to catch the top. Try to get it at the beginning of the end, and at the end of the beginning, and get out at the beginning of the end. Don't try to top ticket. Don't try to bottom ticket. Try to get that little middle, and don't be greedy. I know, even if you're not a greedy person, it's this weird human nature that develops, that we see this easy money, and we all want to believe in Santa Claus, so we stay in longer than we should, versus saying, you know what, I did really well, I should just be happy. Let me use this money and buy something for myself, my family, give some to a charity, whatever. Don't just try to keep making this. You're still going to have a real living and go to work and make money. Don't try to do this as something that's going to replace your job, because it's not going to last forever. But it's a wonderful way to keep busy now and make some good money as long as you're careful. That's one way I would really do it, is just don't be greedy and try to get in at the beginning, not at the end.
Okay, as soon as there's a bandwagon, you're not onto a good thing. Really good advice. I'm trying to write all of this down. Jordan Belfort, real pleasure to talk to you. Thanks so much. The original Wolf of Wall Street.
My pleasure. Take care.
Did you discuss GameStop? It's a question neither the president nor his Treasury Secretary appear able to answer. What to do about a market in turmoil? Institutional investors are facing billions of dollars in losses as small-time investors, organized on social media and trading on apps like Robinhood, continue to drive their preferred stocks' values higher and higher. GameStop, a struggling retail chain that was considered overvalued by so-called experts at $40 a share, ended the week trading at $315. One of the main drivers of the frenzy is Keith Gill, known to most through his YouTube channel Roaring Kitty. He was recommending GameStop back in August last year.
GameStop is an established, uniquely positioned player.
Not surprisingly, this week Gill and his followers were jubilant.
So what an incredible day. Epic.
And that's what it is. It's the regular Joes versus Wall Street. And that's what, when I put money into it, I said, even if this goes to zero and I lose everything, I like being a part of it. And that I think that sentiment is shared amongst a lot of people.
Despite claiming liquidity problems as the stock soared midweek, the online trading app Robinhood backed down from its controversial decision to block users from buying GameStop shares after investors and politicians protested. Some limits, however, were reimposed late Friday.
We absolutely did not do this at the direction of any market maker or hedge fund. So we're really in unprecedented times. And in order to protect the firm and protect our customers, we had to limit buying in these stocks.
Some traders dispute that, but experts say eventually prices will fall.
Gravity is real. This will eventually normalize, but we may see a number of major financial institutions go belly up as a result of it. And I don't think there's going to be a whole lot of sympathy. These are not like the good guys.
Regulators at the Securities and Exchange Commission say they are monitoring the situation and will act to protect retail investors. Still, others are expressing concern that this frenzied trading will hurt the broader market, which saw its worst week in months, and wondering if activist online trading is here to stay. Kristen Salumi, Al Jazeera, New York.
It is the story you could not avoid this week, and maybe the one you couldn't quite understand either. You're not alone. GameStop, a struggling video game retailer, suddenly became the most talked about stock on Wall Street as amateur online traders who organized on the platform Reddit bought up shares and sent the price through the roof in a tug of war with major hedge funds that lost billions of dollars. So how exactly did it happen? Why did it happen? And what does it tell us about the economy? NBC business and technology correspondent Jolene Kent has our Sunday focus.
In the span of just 1 week, GameStop has gone from a struggling video game retailer closing 1,000 stores in this pandemic to the center of a Wall Street revolution.
GameStop shares right now, I mean, I don't even know what to say. It's up 131%.
It all began last year when individual investors on Reddit started noticing elite hedge funds like Melvin Capital were shorting GameStop stock, meaning they were betting on the shares losing value.
They made a bet, and we called the bluff.
Bradley Lewis is one of scores of recreational investors who went the other way, purchasing 62 shares of GameStop 2 weeks ago using the popular fee-free trading app Robinhood.
Why'd you get into GameStop to begin with?
The short answer is, of course, the Reddit thread Wall Street Bets. I had money just sitting in my bank account, and I wasn't able to go do anything. Over the course of the summer, I saw my friends one time.
That Reddit-driven buying frenzy caused what's called a short squeeze, forcing those Wall Street giants to lose billions. Lewis, meanwhile, has profited $10,000. Others claim to have made millions.
The fact that I know that there's somebody on the other side that has to buy, that's the reason I got in. It had nothing to do with the company itself.
As the stock went viral, Robinhood and other platforms like TD Ameritrade suddenly restricted individual investors from trading GameStop and other hot stocks like AMC and Express, while the big institutions could stay in the game unfettered. This triggering outrage from lawmakers on both sides of the aisle, forcing Robinhood's CEO to go on defense.
This was an internal operational and risk management decision that the firm made so that we could protect the firm and protect our customers.
But Reddit users like college student and part-time grocery worker Danielle Lanoy, who made $1,000 off GameStop and AMC, disagree.
There does seem to be a bit of a two-tier system where the rich get richer and the poor just get by. I feel that's just a strong condemnation of the overall system.
Was this a declaration of war, in a sense, by individual investors on the financial system in a way?
That was certainly the feeling and the sentiment that many who participated in this, and it's one that both regulators and policymakers need to take quite seriously.
Perhaps a new referendum on who controls the markets.
The concern is that we are seeing a repeat of 2008. We are seeing a repeat of Wall Street looking out for itself. It's doing so by applying different rules to retail investors that cut them off from the opportunities that professional traders have.
Armchair investors pledging to keep their fight up as Wall Street braces for another roller coaster week.
And Joe joins me now live. Joe, good morning. Thank you for walking, on behalf of the country, walking us through that. The market disruption caused by all of this certainly got the attention of Washington. You've got Congress vowing to hold hearings now. The SEC says it's going to look into all of this. So will GameStop, of all companies, lead to some changes on Wall Street?
Hey, Willie, good morning. Certainly a lot of discussion about that. The Securities and Exchange Commission saying it's closely monitoring the situation, saying they want to protect retail investors, as Robinhood, that trading app, insists they didn't want to stop people from buying GameStop and other stocks. They've been emphasizing this weekend that the restrictions were put into place to allow them to meet financial requirements for that frenzy of trading that we continue to see. But that hasn't stopped some market watchers from calling this moment a sequel to the Occupy Wall Street protests that sprang from the 2008 financial crisis. But it's a rare moment of agreement with both Republicans and Democrats concerned about market manipulation as a whole and where the regulators decide to go from here. But one big word on the street, more transparency. Willie?
All started by a group of people on Reddit. So interesting. Joe Lynn Kent, thanks so much. Good to see you.
Hey, thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Find your favorite recipes, celebrity interviews, uplifting stories, shop our favorite deals, and so much more with the Today app. Download it now.
On Wall Street this past week, plenty of chaos. David Pogue explains why.
Last week, you might have seen the headlines about something truly whacked out going on in the stock market. Something to do with GameStop, this ailing chain of retail stores that sell video games. For no discernible business reason, its stock shot up hundreds of % in a matter of days. Allow me to present the explanation. You know the formula for making money in the stock market, right? Buy low, sell high. But it's also possible to make money when a stock goes down. This is called shorting a stock. You're betting that the company's stock will fall. It's a little complicated, but the basics go something like this. When the stock is high, you borrow shares from your brokerage and then you sell them. Now, of course, technically, you still owe those shares to your brokerage, so you wait for the price of the stock to go down, and then you buy them back for much less money. You return the shares to your brokerage, and you've just made money. Unless, of course, the price of the stock went up in the meantime. In that case, you're in trouble.
Wall Street doesn't like GameStop much. After all, who's buying video games in a physical store anymore? So the hedge funds had shorted GameStop, bet against it. Then last week, they met their match.
If you look at Reddit, namely the forum Wall Street Bets, which has more than 2 million subscribers, there are dozens of forums with traders encouraging each other to push shares higher.
People want to take risks and they want to make some money.
Jamie Rogozinski started Wall Street Bets, a forum on Reddit.com, in 2012. It's a place where amateur investors talk about quick stock bets. They tend to be snarky, funny, a little reckless.
They're not looking at it as I'm going to lose my money. They see this as I'm purchasing the possibility of making money with a non-refundable ticket.
So last week, a funny thing happened. These amateur investors on Wall Street Bets began to buy up GameStop stock, driving its price up, egging each other on.
It went bananas, more than 130% on a single day. We don't see things like that on Wall Street.
Jill Schlesinger should know. She's my colleague, a CBS News business analyst. She's witnessed how the big brokerage houses refer to mom-and-pop individual investors, also known as retail investors.
Behind closed doors, they'd call the retail investors the dumb money, and they'd call the institutions the hedge funds. The private equity people, that was the smart money. The interesting part of this story is that the cost of trading is so low, executing a trade is so easy that you can all of a sudden harness the power of the dumb money to go up against the smart money.
Now remember, all those big New York hedge funds had to buy GameStop shares from the market in order to return it, and all the buying they did wound up driving the price even higher.
Pretty soon, some of the Reddit investors had made millions on paper, and the hedge funds were in desperate trouble. One of them, Melvin Capital, had to borrow almost $3 billion to cover its GameStop short. The internet went crazy. The little guy had beaten the fat cats.
There was a sense of, hoorah, look what we've done. We just knocked over a huge hedge fund, and we're just a bunch of know-nothings, amateurs. It feels good to have one of these guys get knocked out.
By the way, it wasn't just GameStop. Something similar is going on with other lame duck companies like AMC, the movie chain, and BlackBerry. The SEC is investigating, and the story is still unraveling. But some aspects of this tale, Jill Schlesinger says, won't change a bit.
David, for as long as I've been in this business, there are two dominant forces. There is fear and there is greed. And there is nothing that will legislate that or regulate that away.